So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to do a quick introduction. So my name is Christina. I'm a rising sophomore at Stanford. Ivy found me through Waylon, who we were both tutors on Tutorfly. And yeah, last time I did a presentation on Excel with your group, and I thought it went pretty well. I had a great time. So hopefully this time everything will go well as well. And I'll be going through both Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides. I have my email, my LinkedIn, and I'll share this Google Slides with you guys afterwards. It has kind of a step-by-step of everything I'm going to go through today. And always feel free to reach out if you have more questions. All right, so first we are going to start with Microsoft PowerPoint. And so actually I'm just going to do a live demo, and then each of the things I go in the live demo will be shown in this PowerPoint. So I can give you like a example. So like feel free to take notes. Don't worry too much if you might miss something, because obviously this is recorded as well, but I'll share this afterwards. So I will share my desktop. All right, so the first step of using Microsoft PowerPoint is going to be obviously opening the PowerPoint. And also, can everyone see my screen still? All right, I'm assuming since no one shouted out that they can't, I will continue on. So the first thing is going to be opening PowerPoint. So if you're on a Mac, you'll open it by just either searching on the Launchpad, like so, or if you're on a Windows, you would press the Start button and search up Microsoft PowerPoint. So the first thing is this opening homepage. Very, very straightforward. So I'll be quick. Just like you got some themes here. So these are all pre-made templates that you can use. They come with different font colors, different background colors, all these settings. You can also go to Home, which will show you like your recent documents. Then you can go to New, Recent, once again, Shared. So anything that someone has shared with you, Microsoft PowerPoint and both Google Slides allows collaboration on PowerPoints. And Open. So if you want to find something from your actual opening page, that's where you can find it. So I'll start with a blank presentation. So I just double click that. Depending on where you choose it from, it'll allow you to single click or double click. So the very first thing is actually going to be our Home tab. So the beginning of this tab is very, very straightforward, stuff that you probably already know. So paste, copy, paste, cut, anything that you would find in, let's say, Microsoft Word. The next thing is going to be this new slide, layout, reset, and section. So new slide is actually really great. There's a drop down of new slide. I'm going to close this for now. So there's a drop down of new slide. It has different formattings of the slides that are typically used, so that you can quickly get the text boxes that you want, or this different layout that you wish to use in your PowerPoint. The next thing is layout. So this is the same thing as using the drop down of the new slide. As you can see, you can also duplicate slide, outline. So that's like making an outline of all your slides, or reuse slides. So go from a different PowerPoint to this PowerPoint. Reset is used when you want to actually go back to the original template. So for instance, let's say I move this text box around like this, and I realize, wow, that looks horrible. I really do not want that. I can press reset and it'll go back to the layout that it was. Section, so this one's really handy if you have a long presentation. So you can add sections to your presentation. So let's say this is the main portion of my presentation. Let's say I want to add a section here that says like Q&A. Why does it keep questions? There we go. All right. So then this is nice for organizing, because you can collapse these slides. So you can just look at the slides you want. And like I mentioned earlier, if your presentation gets really long, that's like what you would want to use this for. The next section is actually this main body section of this home tab or home bar. This is very straightforward because this is exactly the same as any other Microsoft or even Google platform. It's just changing your font, like putting highlights in, your line spacing, bullet points, types of direction of your text, where you want the text to be aligned. So in the middle, at the top, or the bottom, and like so line spacing. So I can come back to this if anyone wants, but I'm actually going to move on because it's actually very, it's exactly the same as any other Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office platform. The next is picture. So this is if you want to insert a picture, you just click this. You can do photo browser, so finding from your folders. You can do picture from files, so a specific file, or online pictures. It helps you search for pictures online that you want to put in. Next is shapes. So you can draw a shape. Let's say I want to draw a circle. I click this. My cursor becomes a cross. I click and drag. So now I have a shape. I'm going to delete that for now. Back to, so text box. This one's actually, I think, the most helpful because let's say I do a slide that's blank. Let's see, let's do a blank slide. And then I realize, oh, I want some text here, and I want some text here, and I want some text here. Those boxes have been created, so now I can type in them. All right, and then the other thing you can do is you can select all of these text boxes. This also works for shapes or pictures. If you do so, you can drag them all together at once. You can also use your arrow keys to shift them. You can also group them together. So if I click all three and then I right click on any of these boxes, it gives me the choice to group them together. So if I group it, it becomes one box together. So then moving this becomes very easy. You would use this when you want to keep a certain format on the slide exactly the same, and while you switch other things for those things to stay together. So let's say you draw like a person with your little shapes, and you want like each of their limbs to be together. When you shift that image around, you would use this grouping feature. Next is arrange. So arrange actually gives you the option to ungroup. Arrange also gives you the option to reorder. So let's say I have this text box on top of, I have this text box on top of this text box. I can kind of like bring one to the front or send to the back. I realize it's a little hard to see, so let me do a shape. So the shape is covering the text. Let's say I want to, go back to home. Let's say I want to move this shape behind the text. I can press send to back, and it is now behind the text. All right, and then the other cool thing about PowerPoint is design ideas. So, okay, let's see. There we go. So if you click design ideas, it gives you just suggestions of different like formatting that you could use for your specific slide, and then you can implement it. So if I click this, it now makes this slide into this cool design. This is just powered by like Microsoft PowerPoint's own like AI. So it just decides like what type of designs might look good for your slide. One other thing is if you put in a lot of images, it'll also help you decide where it would look good for certain images. But at the same time, it's also very limited, so it might not give you the best suggestions. All right. The next section is insert. So insert, everything is pretty straightforward here as well. I'm just going to go through the most helpful, I guess, functions of the insert bar. So first is going to be new slide. We saw this in the home, same exact thing. Next is going to be Zoom. So Zoom is actually pretty cool. So let's say I want to make a summary of like my main section slides and allow it to be in this question slide. I can do a zoom, I can do a section zoom. And so I click the main section and I insert. So now there's a zoom of my main section in my Q&A slide. So let's say I am presenting. And this is a great place for me to show you where to just immediately start presenting and going into presentation mode. If you go down to this bar, there's a little, I'm not exactly sure what you would call that. It could be like a screen drop down or even a podium. So if you click this, it starts presenting. And then, as you can see, now I have this weird box in the middle. If I click it, it zooms into where that slide starts. And so let me make that a little more clear. To end your slideshow ever, you can always just press escape, and that will help you end the slideshow. I realize there might be some background noise. It should stop shortly. Please let me know if there's ever a time you can't hear me. So I will write some text here so you can kind of tell what it is. So then I'm going to present this one more time. So in this Zoom, let's say during the Q&A, I want people to be able to go back to a specific slide. aka the main section. So I click this zoom and it just brings me back to that slide. So I just press escape to get out of there. So that's zoom. All right. Once again, text box, I think my favorite function, being able to draw a text box anywhere. You can also do slide number. So this gives you which number slide you're on, and it like just draws it into the text box for you. Finally, one thing that's helpful is video and audio. So let's say you want to insert a video, you would use this. And if you want to insert an audio, you would use this. The next big section is the draw section. This one is used when you have like a touch screen, or if you would like to draw onto the presentation itself. So like as a pen, not like within the text box. I'm gonna undo that. And then design. So design is actually exactly like when the PowerPoint suggested you, or like Microsoft PowerPoint suggested you all the themes when you're starting a PowerPoint presentation. So if you ever realize that you actually liked one of the templates that they gave you, you would choose this and it would change all your slides to that template. So I'll show you one more time. Click this, do the same thing. All right. The one other handy thing on this section is this format background. So let's say I want to change the background of my slide. Sorry, I'm going to close design ideas. Then I can use this to kind of fill it in. I can use gradient, picture, pattern, and all of the options are down here. I can choose colors, I can choose transparency, etc. All right, next is the transition section. So this is when you want to add a transition between your slides. So first, let's, for instance, let's say, or actually, let me show you the default and then show you the change. So the default of slide transitions is no transition, just going to the next slide. However, you might want to add a little bit of flair to your presentation. So let's say I want to do, let's do morph on this one. Oh, just kidding. Let's do fade on this one. So if I click it, it is now highlighted, and that shows that this specific slide has the fade transition. The other way to check that it has it is there's a little star icon that will appear when it has some sort of transition or animation added to that slide. What you can do to check this is you can present by clicking the button down below, or you can press the preview button, which shows what it would look like. So I'll show you one other, let's see, what's a fun one? Let's do the origami one. So now this slide has the origami transition. So I press preview, and that's the transition. So I'll show you what that would look like when I present. Great. One thing is that if I want to, so two things. Let me stop drawing. Okay, so two things. On PowerPoint, you will always see these like template text. So click to add title, click to add subtitle. Until you actually type something in, those template texts won't show up in the actual presentation, like so. To toggle between slides in a presentation, you can also just click, or you can use your arrow buttons. All right, so more on transitions. So sometimes you can have the transition last for longer, so you can change the duration here. Sometimes you would want your transition to have a sound. So let's say you wanted to give an applause every time you go through to the next slide. That's what you would choose. You can also choose when the transition happens. So if you do on mouse click, if that button is clicked, that means you would move on to the next slide when you click the slide. However, if you do no mouse click, then it would have to be after and then a specific time. So the slides will automatically switch at a specific given time. The other great thing is apply. So let's say I really like this fade transition. I would apply to all. So now you can see there's a star symbol on every single slide. And so when I present, every slide will now have this fade transition. Okay, moving on to animations. So this part is also really cool. Let's say I want to animate specific text boxes. So let's say I want this title to, for instance, fly in. So these green buttons are entrance animations. These yellow buttons are different effect animations. And then exit effects are over here. So how I want the text to look when it's exiting. So I'll just do an example of a fly-in, and then from there you guys can play around later on with the different types of effects. So if I do a fly-in on this one, you can see that it has an animation because a little 1 button shows up. The other cool thing is you can stack animations. So let's say I want this to do a fly-in and I also want to spin. So now it shows that there's 2 animations on this little dashboard if I click the 1 and 2 that are applied to this specific object. So if I press preview, it will do the fly-in and then it will do the spin. On this little dashboard on the side, so you can get this by clicking on this, or you can also do animation pane, which is this button right here. You can kind of select the order of the animations. You can select the options, timing, and the triggers, which are also up here. So path animation is a different thing. So I can draw a path that I want this item to go to, and then it will let me animate that item to follow that path. So then these options on this dashboard on the side is also available up here. So trigger is actually the most important one, in my opinion. You can click, you can decide how the animation is started. So right now it's selected as on click of. So let's say I click this title, that's when it's going to animate. Versus the default is you can just have it start on click, which means clicking this anywhere on the slide. And you can also change the duration of the animation. One note about animations is that you probably wouldn't use this for any sort of professional presentation. You'd only use this for kind of fun presentations. Like let's say your group is giving a presentation internally, this is when you would apply animations. All right. The next is slideshow. So slideshow is where you can decide how you want to play your presentation. So right now the default, that button that I showed down here is play from current slide, which is this button. So that means I want to start my presentation from the slide that I am selected in. You can do play from start, which means it'll play from the very first. You can do presenter view. So this is used when you want to show, when you want to see your slides and then you're sharing your screen on the bigger screen. So for instance, like if you're giving a presentation to a big group and everything is projected on a screen, you would do presenter view, which would show the audience these slides. And on your end, it would show which slide you're on, which slide is next, and any notes that you want to add. You can also click End Show here and leave. If you do Setup Slideshow, that gives you just like options for how you want your slideshow to go. So by speaker, in a window, if you want it to loop, if you want to do animation, no animation, etc. You can also do hide slide. So let's say you make a slide that you want for a specific audience and you want to reuse this presentation, but you don't want it for another audience. You would use this button here to hide that slide. So now when I present, that slide is skipped. So you can see here, it went from this slide all the way to this slide, skipping this slide. Rehearse timings and record slideshow. Those are just tools for you to use when you want to practice presentations. So if I go into rehearse timings, it'll time each slide for me. If I end show, it will show that I have, it will allow me to save the timing for each slide so that I know how long I've taken for each presentation slide. So I'm not going to save that. And then record slideshow, very straightforward. If you just want to record the slideshow, you can do that. All right, review and view. Let me check time. Okay, perfect. So I'm going a little quickly so that we can also get to the Google Slides portion and answer questions. So always feel free to tell me to slow down if needed. So review is to add comments and check for spelling or only open in a certain restriction. So this one is helpful when you're collaborating on a presentation with someone else. You can do that by doing, here, let me move this over. You can do that by doing share over here. So I can share to someone, or by showing comments, and you can see all the comments that people have attached. If I add a comment to a presentation, it allows me to just write feedback on that presentation, like make sure to add titles. And that comment will now be on this slide. You can see if a comment has been added to a slide by seeing this little text box that shows up, or like speech bubble that shows up on the top left. And then finally is view. So view is actually really helpful. Typically, View is not very useful in like other Microsoft Office platforms, but in presentation, it's actually, or sorry, in PowerPoint, it's actually really helpful. A lot of people use it. So normal is this view where it just shows the slides on the side pane and shows the big slide on the right. Outline view is actually showing an outline of each of the sections in a smaller tab. This is really helpful when you have a lot of slides in your presentation. Slide sorter, so this is just tiles of each slide. If you want to drag slides around and like move it to a different order, this is perfect for that. Notes page. So a quick note about notes. You can add notes down below, like so, for each slide. This is for you when as you're presenting to know what you want to talk about each slide. So for instance, let's say I want to write a note to myself. Introduce self during this slide. If I go into notes page, then it will show these notes. This view is helpful so that you can know what it would look like if you were to print each slide as a page on a 8x11, like a normal letter size page. Okay, I'm going to skip the slide master for now and go to handout master. So handout master is actually, you can see how your presentation will show. So each box represents a slide, and then each area below represents like where the notes would go. So this one doesn't actually show your actual slideshow, but it shows what the organization of it would look like if you were to print this presentation as a handout. So for me, I've seen this used a lot in classes when the teacher will make a big presentation, but she just wants it as handouts. She's not going to present the actual presentation. This is what he or she would use to print it out and pass it out to each student. And then one more thing about view. So notes master, same idea with the notes. And then coming back to slide master. So slide master is actually really cool. So I'm going to go back to normal view. Slide master is actually really cool. So let's say I want to edit what this entire template looks like. So if I change this, let's say I want every single slide to have a different font. I want it to be Calibri, for instance. Where's Calibri? Then every slide from now on with the master title is going to be Calibri. So you're going to use this if you see a template that you really like, but you want to change little aspects of it, or if you want to create your own master template. So again, you would reach that by going into view and clicking slide master. All right, perfect. And so just a few other tips. Let's say you want to save your PowerPoint, same thing. You would press the save button over here, or press Control S. If you want to ever undo, same thing. Press the undo button or press Control Z. And so that's just a really quick recap of everything on PowerPoint. Any questions so far before I move on to Google Slides? All right, great. I will be moving forward. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. All right. All right, okay. So that was everything for Microsoft PowerPoint. This is everything we just went through. So now on to Google Slides. I'm gonna actually exit this presentation, which is incidentally made on Google Slides. A little bit meta. So I'm gonna start from the very beginning once again. So there's two ways to create a Google Slides presentation. You can go to Drive and click New, and you can choose Google Slides. And it allows you to create a blank presentation or from a template. So I'm going to go through that route, and then I'll also show you the other route. If you don't do that, if you go directly to Google Slides, you can go through Google Apps, go to Slides, and this homepage is actually very similar to Microsoft PowerPoint. So you got recent presentations here, blank presentations here, templates over here, and you can click through the gallery to see what type of templates you can use. I'm going to start a blank presentation and delete the other one. Great. So same idea. First things first. One thing that's different about Microsoft PowerPoint versus Google Slides, or the key points that are different. So one is formatting. As you can see, there's a lot less buttons at the top There's no actual home, insert, draw tabs. Everything is in one tab, and then you can choose options by going to File, Edit, View, etc. So it's a drop-down format rather than the tabs like in Microsoft PowerPoint. The other big thing is that Google Slides is much more commonly used for, one, their beautiful templates, because PowerPoint templates are a little bit, or considered a little bit older. And then two, because it's very, very good for collaboration. So if I share with someone, I can, let's name this. I can share with groups and people, and I can change like the restrictions on it. And then you can do live time edits very, very easily compared to Microsoft PowerPoint. The live edits on Microsoft PowerPoint are a little more janky because it's done on OneDrive Live, and that one's just not as well integrated. So let's get started. So the first thing is just this bar. Won't take too long to go through each one. So once you have a hang of Microsoft PowerPoint, also everything is very applicable to Google Slides. It's very it's like very, very similar to each other. So the first thing is getting a new slide. So that plus button is creating a new slide. You can also press the drop down to choose different types of slides. Next is the undo and redo button, the print button, the zoom button. So one thing that's a little different about Google Slides is sometimes any sort of Google platform, it's a little hard to zoom into. So this allows easier access to that. Text box. So once again, my favorite, you can draw text boxes. Insert image, shapes, lines, adding a comment, and then background. So choosing an image or a color for the background. So let's say I want to make it orange, I can do that. And layout. So this one is actually the same thing as the dropdown of new slide. And then finally, theme. So theme in Microsoft PowerPoint used to come up as a big box at the top. Now it's a side pane on Google Slides. And then transition. So once again, transition is all on one line rather than in a different tab. So this one includes doing motion, so any sort of animations or any sort of transitions for each slide. All right. Just check my notes. Okay. So let me just go through the most helpful parts of each tab at the top. So file. The most helpful thing would be importing, because sometimes you want to upload a Microsoft PowerPoint up into Google Slides or vice versa. So if you import, that would be that. If you download, that would be that. Add shortcut to Drive and move. So these two are helpful because let's say you want to move this to a specific place in your Google Drive, you can do it within the PowerPoint. Unlike Microsoft PowerPoint, within the Google Slides, unlike Microsoft PowerPoint, that one, it's a little finicky about that. So you have to usually leave this page to be able to move it to a different folder. Edit. So this one, just the most like simple undo, redo, copy, paste. View. So these are the different view functions. If I want to go into presentation view, I can click that. Same thing. So in Microsoft PowerPoint, you just have to press escape. In Google Slides, you actually get a little pane at the bottom that helps you do all these like little functions while you're presenting. So you can press exit. If you go into insert, so once again, any sort of inserting. One thing that's cool is diagram. This one is not as this one's not as nice on Microsoft PowerPoint. There are ways to make diagrams, but in Google Slides, they have like a lot of pre-made ones that look really nice. So for instance, let's say I want to put in a timeline. I can click timeline and choose one of the timelines, and it will insert it immediately into my slide. Perfect. Next thing is format. So format only works when you're clicking inside of a text box. Let's click format. And as you can see, now that I'm inside of a text box, a bunch of options show up on the top bar. These options are exactly the same as Google Docs or Microsoft Word. They're just different ways to change the font, the text box, the highlighting, the line spacing, all sorts of things like that. So I'm gonna exit out of that. Slide. So these are all the options about slides. So if I want to do a new slide, if I want to duplicate this slide, do that. If I want to skip a slide, that's the same thing as hide slide in Microsoft PowerPoint. And then I have some options about background, which I can do already on this main little section. I'm going to come back to actually Edit Master because that one requires a little more description. Arrange. So this is the same thing as the order button on Microsoft PowerPoint. So if I want to arrange this item on the center of the page, or if I want to rotate it, if I want to ungroup something, all of those options are in Arrange. Tools. So this one is just like the, let's see what was called in Microsoft Word. This is just like the review function or the review tab in Microsoft PowerPoint. So spelling, any sort of preferences, any sort of adding stuff. And add-ons. So if you become a little more savvy with Google Slides, you can actually add in different functions into Slides by like importing it. This is like when you want like very specific features. I actually have never even used add-ons. Like there's very few times you would need it, but this is where you would access it. And then help. So help on Google Slides is actually really, really helpful compared to help on Microsoft Office. So if you go in Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, there's a button called Tell Me, which is supposed to be like the help function. I've not found it that useful, but the help function on Google Slides is really great. You can just type in exactly what you want. So let's say I want to actually change a specific template that I've received. I would search up master. In both PowerPoint and Slides, master is being able to edit like the general format of your entire presentation. And let's say I don't know where to find it. Where you actually find it is in Slide and going to Edit Master. But let's say I don't know that. I can search in Help and like Edit. And it gives me all the sorts of types of edit functions in this. So I go to Edit Master. And so this allows me to do the same exact thing. Let's say I want every single title to be in Comic Sans. So now every single title of my slides will be in Comic Sans. So let's try inserting one with the title and one more with the title. Perfect. A few other cool things about Google Slides. So the present is up here. There's not as many options for presenting as Microsoft PowerPoint. So there's presenter view and present from beginning. That's it. If you just click present, it's presenting from the current slide. So I'm going to press escape to get out. Comment. So this one is actually pretty cool. You can either comment or you can start a discussion with the people on this slide. So right now I don't have any collaborators, so it won't let me do that. This is cool as well. So because Google Slides was meant for collaboration among many people, you can see a version history very easily by clicking last edit was blank ago. So right now it's seconds ago because I just changed it. But let's say it says last edit was last night and you realize something might have changed last night, but you're not sure. You click open version history and it will show all the different changes that have happened within the last whatever amount of time. If I had collaborators on this, you could also click this and it will show which user has made that change. If I want to go back to a certain point in my presentation, I can click the place and press restore this version and it will go back to that time. All right, one other great thing is actually Explore. So Explore is the same thing as the design or let's see what it's called. Yeah, design ideas on Microsoft PowerPoint. So it gives you options of what your slides might look like. You can also search or do learn more to learn about it. But right now I don't have that much on my slides. That's why there's no Explore. There we go. So now it gives me suggestions of what the slide could look like. And voila. All right. And then let me give a few additional things. So on Google Slides, once again, it's within your Google Drive, so you can favorite it, so you can find it easier later. You can click Move, which will show all the places in the drive that you could put it in. This cloud button shows that the document is already saved. There might be a little change in icon there if for some reason your internet's not working or something has gone wrong and it cannot save. Let's see if I've missed anything. Oh, one other thing. So same thing on Microsoft Office, PowerPoint and Google Slides. You can drag around your slides very easily. So everything on sort of these presentation platforms, it's okay to assume that you'll be able to do things like dragging or just copy pasting entire slides. So I'm going to go back to the original view. So these are the two view options. Again, a lot less comprehensive than Microsoft PowerPoint. So let's say I want to go to this view. Let's say I want to copy this slide. I can actually Control C, Control V, and it'll copy that slide. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my presentation. Okay. All right. There was a question about moving a file into another format. So I can actually show that right now. So I'm going to go back to my drive, or sorry, I'm going to go back to my slides. Let's say I want to upload my PowerPoint presentation as a Google Slides presentation. What I do is go to main menu. Sorry, not main menu. Let's see, folder. Okay, so I would click this folder button. Sorry, in the Google Drive it's a little different. So I'll go into this folder, little button over here, and I can click upload. So let's say I want to upload a PowerPoint from my OneDrive or my Microsoft PowerPoint. So I would find a PowerPoint. Let's see, let me look for one. Sorry, I just have so much stuff on here right now. Okay, I don't have any PowerPoints there. Let me check this. Okay, here's a PowerPoint, a marketing strategy from my internship. I would open, we'll upload. It may take a second. It's kind of a long PowerPoint. Great, and then it'll open it for me. So now this PowerPoint is on Google Slides and I can edit it directly on Google Slides. Actually, when this first was implemented onto Google Slides, the people really hated it because the moving over process made a lot of formatting different. So for instance, I'm sure this was actually aligned downwards, not like up on the top of the page on the Microsoft PowerPoint version. However, on Google Slides, once you change it, it kind of shifts things around. So that's why it's a little annoying, but it's actually gotten a lot better recently. And then I can do the same thing. Let's say I want to import this back down into a PowerPoint. I would click download and then it gives me all these options. I can do a Microsoft PowerPoint, I can do a PDF, I can do an image, I can do a vector graphic. I have all these options. So I'm not going to download it for now because that will just take some time and I already have this downloaded on my drive, but that's kind of what it would be like. Now, let's say I don't want this slide in my drive anymore. I'm going to move this to trash. I'm going to move it to trash and go back to the home screen. So now I no longer have it in my home. All right. Did that answer? Let's see. All right, great. I'm glad that answered your question. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and finish up this presentation. And then we're going to go into questions. So this is everything I just went through. So some general tips that I've learned while using PowerPoint. One thing that would make your PowerPoint look really better, like a lot better than other PowerPoints, is making sure all your boxes across the slides are aligned. So what I mean by that is, let me show you this PowerPoint. For instance, all my titles, I could have actually shifted this around. I could have made this one move over here. I could make this one move over here. But then when I present, this will look very, very messy. Obviously this is cut off, but let's say it's not cut off. Let's say I just like shift the boxes. It will suddenly make my PowerPoint presentation look really messy. And I know that may sound very, very straightforward, like who would not do that? One thing that happens is if you don't use a template, so if you kind of make your own text boxes on your PowerPoint and you want to do a lot of customization, that might come undone. So you might end up misaligning certain things. One way to make sure that's not happening is to go into this grid view or in your PowerPoint, the other views that are available, and you can see really well if your PowerPoint slides look uniform. If they don't, it won't look very good. I'm going to present from here. All right. And then again, less text, more images. I'm kind of being a hypocrite here because obviously there's like no images on this slide, but that's just a good rule of thumb. So that way that your presentation is a lot more eye-catching rather than boring just to read. So that's why, like, for instance, on my other slides, I try to put a lot of images of the actual PowerPoint rather than just giving you this text box. All right, another thing is 14-point font. That is like the bare minimum. Typically, a lot of people who coach online presentations and stuff like that, especially professionally, will tell you at least 20-point font because this is usually given across a big room. Obviously, a lot has changed because of COVID, so smaller fonts are now a little more acceptable because people are just looking at it on their screen. Transitions, I already mentioned this, like people will usually recommend that you just use the very basics. So the default transition, or like, for instance, the one I showed you, the fade or like the slide, those count as basic transitions. And then in terms of formatting, choosing colors that are really easy to see from the back of a room, that's typically the rule of thumb. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. That kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to go through. And so I was wondering if you guys had any questions or specific things that you might want me to show you. And if not, that's also totally fine. I just recognized that I may have ended a little sooner than our scheduled amount of time. So I wanted to allow you guys to do a little more in depth if needed. Yeah, is there a preference? So I think the biggest preference is Microsoft PowerPoint. If you're going to do a presentation where you just have to share a file, so you don't want that presentation to be shared as something people can kind of like look through each of the slides, like make edits, I would typically use Microsoft PowerPoint, because that one is just usually for your own use, and a lot of times like a little more professional, because the themes and templates that they give are, I would say, a little older, but at the same time, because of that, more formal. In terms of Google Slides, I personally think it's a lot easier to use. It's very, very integrated. You can do a lot more like dragging, for instance, rather than in Microsoft PowerPoint, where you have to actually go into buttons. And then of course, for collaboration, Google Slides is like 100% better than Microsoft PowerPoint. Any sort of collaboration on a PowerPoint, like I would 100% recommend Google Slides. The only other thing is that Google Slides sometimes may not have like the advanced features that you want. So Microsoft PowerPoint has a lot of features because it's been around for much longer. So if there's something specific you need, definitely go with Microsoft PowerPoint. I hope that answered the question.